Welcome back to Culture Recap. Today I will show you an action thriller film titled 2012. Before that, don't forget to like and subscribe for more film recaps. The film begins and we are shown space and a huge flash taking place on the surface of the sun. Adrian visits India in 2009. He and his assistant descend into the depths of the copper mine. Adrian sees how scientists have discovered the most powerful solar flare, the dust of which is rapidly flying towards the Earth. Then they pass into another room where you can see how the recently arrived particles from the flash heat the Earth and its core from the inside, leading to boiling water. Adrian is heading to Washington for urgent communication with a high-ranking person, Carl. When he reads the report, he is shocked, and they immediately go to a meeting with President Thomas of America. Then, in 2010, we saw a meeting of the presidents of the major powers of the world. President of America talks about the upcoming catastrophe of a planetary scale. In Tibet at this time, the military is gathering people to build a secret facility. In 2011, the Secret Service hides the main achievements of the art of mankind and replaces them with a man who painted fake paintings is blown up in his car. In California, we are introduced to the main character of the film Jackson, where he is late for a meeting with his ex-wife and children, and small earthquakes are happening in his city at this moment. Jackson picks up the kids and they go on vacation together. Adrian, at a meeting with the president, says that the schedule of the plan to save humanity is calculated incorrectly, and it is necessary to hurry. His daughter Laura comes into the president's office, and Thomas tells her about the impending disaster. Jackson and his children enter the forbidden zone and see a dried-up lake, the remains of which are boiling. The military comes for them and takes them to a secret base where Adrian is at this moment. Adrian communicates with his friend from India, and during the dialogue realizes that humanity has very little time left. At night, when the children fell asleep, Jackson meets with the radio station host Charlie, where he tells how the ancient Maya civilization predicted that the end of the world would happen in 2012 by melting the Earth's core due to a solar flare. Jackson learns that his longtime friend Professor died in an accident, although in fact he was killed because of the knowledge of the end of the world. Charlie tells about the map of the construction sites of spaceships sent by the murdered professor, but Jackson does not believe him and leaves. The next day, a major earthquake occurs in California, during which Kate and her husband Gordon remain on opposite sides of the fault. Carl tells the president that despite the shifted deadlines, 4 ships will be ready on time, and they will be able to save 400,000 people. Adrian tells at the presentation that humanity has at best a few days left, after which countries begin the immediate evacuation of people from the list. Next, we are introduced to the Russian billionaire Yuri Karpov and his girlfriend Tamara. A message comes to Yuri's phone about the beginning of the evacuation, and he immediately leaves. Jackson brings children for Kate and immediately leaves for work. Yuri calls Jackson and orders him to bring his children to the airport. Jackson picks up the twins and brings them to the plane, where they brag about having tickets to a huge rescue ship. At this moment, a small earthquake begins under the limo, and Jackson wants to rent a light plane in exchange for a very expensive watch, after which he goes very quickly for the children and asks Kate to pack her things. There is a strong earthquake at Kate's house, but Jackson makes it in time and they all run to the car. The apocalypse begins, and despite obstacles, Jackson goes to the airport. The ground goes out from under their feet, but the heroes miraculously manage to get to the plane. The pilot died during the break, but fortunately Gordon knows how to fly an airplane. The runway goes underground right behind the plane, but they manage to take off at the last moment, and flying at an ultra-low altitude, they manage to leave the city and head to Charlie for a map of ships. Along the way, they see a city going under the water. Adrian calls his father, but he is on the liner and there is no way to save him. The father says goodbye to Adrian and finally says that he loves him. The heroes successfully land and Jackson runs to Charlie for a map. Jackson picks up the map at the last moment and runs away to the plane, and Charlie dies on top of the mountain. The runway breaks due to a volcanic eruption. The plane begins to take off and Jackson jumps into it. The ash of the volcano covers the plane, but the hero is lucky and manages to fly out of the black cloud. Now, they are flying to search for a large plane to fly to China. We see how chaos is happening in the world. Many cities of the planet have been destroyed, and meanwhile, the evacuation of the government begins in Washington. President Thomas prays in the church, and in the process of dialogue with Adrian refuses to evacuate, choosing the path of death together with the people. On board the plane, Carl confesses that many people who knew about the disaster were killed in order not to sow panic in the world. In one of the rooms of the plane, Laura communicates with her father on the phone and says goodbye to him. Immediately after that, Thomas publicly tells the disaster. The heroes land at the airport of an almost completely destroyed city, where they meet with Yuri and his family. They agree to take off together, and despite the volcanic cloud behind them, the heavy plane barely takes off. On their way to China, they discover that the place where they had to land for refueling has been completely destroyed. Washington is covered with white ashes. The president goes outside, and before his death sees a huge tsunami covering the city. And at this moment on board the plane, Carl takes over the duties of the president. We are also shown how the liner in which Adrian's father is located is covered by a huge wave. The heroes are running out of fuel, but due to the fact that the continents have shifted, they manage to get to the mountains of China, and they hardly go to land. During the landing, almost everyone manages to get out of the plane, but the pilot, Sasha, does not have time to get out of the cockpit and falls into a cliff with the plane. Yuri and his children are evacuated, but he refuses to take the others with him because of Tamara and Sasha's affair. The main faces of America arrive in China and find out that ship number 3 has malfunctions. Next, we are shown a huge room where there are several arks. We see a huge crowd of people waiting to board the ark. Among them is Yuri and his children. Further, Adrian and Laura understand that people were selected according to the principle of who paid is saved, and the rest of the people do not deserve to be saved. Adrian also sees how a rescue plane was not sent for his friend from India due to saving seats on the arks. There are only 28 minutes left before the arrival of the tsunami. Meanwhile, Yuri provokes a riot and a huge crowd of people rushes to the ark. The main characters are walking through the mountains in the cold, and suddenly seeing a car, they try to stop it. They do it, and they go to the arks together with the Chinese. Through a secret path, they pass under the ark and enter it through an opening from the outside, and with the help of special equipment, the heroes move deeper. Adrian, seeing a huge number of people outside, convinces the heads of other states to open the gates and let people inside. At this moment, a huge mechanism begins to move, and the heroes fall down. Jackson and the Chinese manage to grab hold and survive, but Gordon unfortunately dies. The mechanism jams in Jackson, and the Chinese manage to survive. But because of this, the gate cannot close completely and save a huge number of people, and meanwhile, a huge wave is already approaching. Yuri saves his children, but he falls down. Because of the open gate, water begins to flood the ark from the inside. Tamara saves Jackson's daughter and the dog, but dies in the process. The fastening of the ark is demolished by the plane that the water brought, and the ark rams the neighboring one, after which it goes into uncontrolled swimming, and if the mechanism is not repaired, they will collide with Everest. Jackson manages to fix the mechanism and the gate closes, thereby giving the opportunity to start the engines and stop the ark. We are moved forward 1 year. We see Adrian and Laura in a relationship. Everyone who was on the ark survived, and we see a new world flooded with water, but people found an unflooded piece of land where the command took a course, giving another chance to people for a new life.